project presentation is over on the climate change topic. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you. I'm not going to give scores yet, but this is an opportunity for us to underline a point that came out in the presentation of the project, and which is one of the big elements. The idea behind is to collect businesses of the financial and economical flow in the Indian Ocean country, and
Réunion. Et
and which is in reality Seychelles has this foundation. Madagascar also has this innovation. But what to do? How to do this innovation? Uh, with an economy of a small proportion. So to get out of this waste treatment, they need a market for it, combining the effort and investment of the countries. We can organize an economical circuit to absorb the product that came out of this treatment and export the materials that come out, because you see that ADDOI is an opportunity to check the economical circuit that we need to implement to really highlight those investments in the countries. And we also make effort to make these activities more sustainable. We feel like we're preaching the good news, but these are international commitments. It's clear for the private sectors that it's quite expensive, but today the private sectors realize that expensive doesn't only mean that it's negative for the enterprise, but we invest for a sustainable way because uh, there are individual efforts are important, and combined efforts will allow us to have a scaling up of the economy. There is this economical circuit that allows us to develop activities with technological progress, and we have grassroots initiatives in different countries that evaluate in different ways, but which are all facing the waste which are exported to other countries. So what if, why don't we just organize between us in order to treat waste at the regional level? For instance, we organize in the transportation. Maybe we need to have like a collecting system within the island and find a way to market it. Uh, that's gonna be the idea of today's conference. Is going to we will have a look at the economical contribution. That's the first point that I want to highlight. The second point is on the funding project. The funding is the center of the business today, and we often have a look at another place in terms of funding, yet the funding are at the internal level. When I say internal level, it's not something which is extraordinary, but it's just a fact of mobilizing. At the government level, we have the fiscality that is implemented. How to implement it? We have the private sectors. We haven't talked about funding a lot, but the fundings which are discussed here, like different fund, like sustainable fund. Innovating fund. This project is important for the country. The partners often have the possibility to do the de-risking and implementing legal framework, investment framework to facilitate investment in this sector. That's also important. We need to have a look at other places related to the projects which are presented today. There are partners and banks and insurances which are important actors in this economical sector that we need them to be involved. There needs to be a consultation work between the public and private sectors as well as institutions for them to be accompanied, and that's going to be a win-win for everyone. That's what I want to say in terms of issues.
Thank you very much, Karim. I would like to thank Karim for this intervention because effectively tomorrow we'll have technical and financial partners, and tomorrow we'll talk about how to support on this, how we'll support this project, how we'll create synergy between different actors, project owner, technical and financial partners, the government that we will involve through different facilitation measures in Madagascar, like in Mauritius. We will work more, we will rely on EDBM, Economic Development Board of Madagascar, because at this is not at the ambition that we are giving, and we are delayed in the implementation of those projects. But there is a last sector. Thank you, Karim. I will ask another expert from GIZ, and which is wearing two caps here, who helped us in the technical selection of decarbonization. So now we'll move to projects with decarbonization, reduction of carbon. Good morning. It's a huge pleasure to have the opportunity to talk with you with this topic. We talked a lot about renewable energy, personal energy. I wanted to ask, who would you want me to? Those who want me to continue in French, stand up, and those who want me to continue in English, remain, stay. Okay. Now, those who want me to continue in English.
Few words in English should now stand up so that we check. Okay, I think almost more in English, so I continue in English. I hope this doesn't pose any technical problems. I'm particularly
Content de vous adresser, de vous parler de décarbonisation. C'est pour cela que je vous donne mon expérience personnelle pour imaginer c'est quoi la décarbonation depuis mes années d'expérience. Je ne suis pas un spécialiste de l'énergie. Je connais rien, même juste un tout petit peu de l'énergie, sur l'énergie, mais j'ai commencé ma carrière il y avait en Cambodge. J'ai commencé ma carrière et il y avait l'électricité était très mauvaise. On a dû utiliser un groupe électrogène pour produire de l'électricité. Donc pour le GIZ, à ce moment-là, c'était dans les années 1990. Et nous étions dépendants de 100% d'énergie solaire. Et c'était plus économique quand même. Donc quand vous utilisez l'électricité c'est facile, mais le moins cher, c'est de produire l'électricité. C'était dans les années 90. Et quand nous sommes déplacés vers Zambie, l'électricité c'était vraiment très abordable. power hydroélectrique, de l'énergie hydroélectrique, donc 90% de l'énergie. Donc c'était vraiment très passionné de l'énergie renouvelable. Mais la distance entre Zambie et c'est énorme. La plupart on consomme pour très peu. Donc j'ai utilisé le biofuel. On a acheté la ferme pour produire le combustible bio. On a commencé cela et donc nous avons travaillé avec 9000 fermiers, paysans, qui a amélioré leur côté économique.
And it came down to 80 cents.
Et puis, 8 cents, les secteurs privés n'ont pas pu survivre et cela a causé des problèmes de collecte de ressources. Mais à ce moment-là, nous avons aussi développé du biogaz en tant qu'un revenu intéressant parce que on n'a pas pu donner cela aux animaux, mais cela doit être brûlé ou utilisé en tant qu'engrais ou bien digestion à travers le biogaz. Alors nous avons développé cela en tant qu'entreprise du secteur privé, mais les secteurs privés au Zambie, je vous dis que c'est pas facile. Il y a des opportunités pour travailler avec la COI à l'île Maurice pour développer des programmes énergie pour des énergies renouvelables. Et c'est la première fois aussi qu'on fait cela pour Madagascar, Comores et Seychelles. Alors, j'ai connu ces îles en termes de perspective d'énergie renouvelable à travers quelques projets. À l'île Maurice, c'est encore une situation différente. J'ai découvert que c'est notre deuxième expérience de la Zambie. Biofuel, c'est pas du tout ce qu'on fait. On a produit des plantations pour de l'huile, mais c'est problématique. C'est pas ce qu'on doit faire. Et puis, quand on était allé à l'île Maurice, il y a des mobilités électriques, alors c'est ce qu'on doit faire. J'étais à l'île Maurice depuis 2014. C'est pendant 2 ans avec notre énergie du système solaire. C'est ce qu'on utilise. Cela électrifie la maison et les voitures et c'est parfait. Mais il y a encore un élément qui manque. Et cet élément, je pense qu'on l'a vu dans la plupart des présentations. Ce qu'on fait ici remplace un tout petit peu de l'émission de CO2 parce qu'il y a encore des émissions qui ne sont pas couvertes. Si on veut aller 100% pour n'importe quel projet qu'on fait face ici et particulièrement, nous avons besoin de voir que le transport aérien et maritime, ces deux éléments sont des exemples. Par exemple, le conteneur on peut utiliser le vent pour le transport maritime, mais cela ne remplace pas les autres points substantiels à moyen terme ou à long terme. Et avec la globalisation, il y a une grande augmentation en termes de transport aérien. Et maintenant, pour le COP 27, on va parler de cela parce que qui utilise le transport aérien et quelle est l'émission? Comment pourrions-nous compenser cela? Il y a une possibilité limitée pour réduire les émissions à travers le transport aérien. Il y a une augmentation de trafic aérien, le nombre des gens qui volent c'est pas tout le monde qui prend le transport aérien, mais les gens qui n'utilisent pas ce transport aérien, ce sont eux qui doivent subir la conséquence de ces crises au niveau global. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on a besoin dès qu'on accepte dès qu'on peut éviter le transport aérien ou maritime, on doit penser à d'autres choses. Cela réduit un peu plus l'émission. Ça fait partie des projets de décarbonisation et je suis ravie de voir qu'il y a quelques projets qui vont vers cette direction. Il y a aussi ce projet sur le tourisme durable, mais d'où viennent les touristes? Les émissions de ces avions sont l'impact, c'est pas seulement vers la destination des touristes, mais aussi de leur point de départ. Pour le climat, à l'île Maurice, par exemple, 30% des produits au niveau national viennent des touristes. C'est la contribution peut-être c'est plus à Madagascar, à l'île Maurice qu'à Madagascar, mais 30% de la consommation à l'île Maurice dépend du tourisme. Alors, nous avons besoin de voir des moyens pour parce que nous pensons que le trafic aérien, c'est cher. Il paye des taxes ou bien il paye de l'argent pour la destruction de l'environnement. Nous avons besoin de voir un moyen pour qu'il puisse payer pour qu'on utilise cet argent de la compensation de la destruction environnementale pour les communautés locaux. Merci beaucoup. Je m'excuse si j'étais très long. Merci beaucoup. Nous savons qu'à Madagascar, un des défis principaux, c'est d'avoir la fluidité et flexibilité au niveau des cadres réglementaires sur ces projets. Les secteurs privés vont pouvoir avoir ces opportunités en termes de séquestration de carbone et puis pousser le gouvernement à être plus flexible en termes d'issue des lois pour la séquestration des projets de carbone. Je vous passe la parole pour les derniers points du projet. Merci.
Merci Romy. On va passer à la dernière thématique qui est la décarbonisation. Nous avons un peu moins de projets que les autres thématiques, mais vous allez voir l'intérêt de présenter ces projets. Peut-on mettre le premier d'entre eux, s'il vous plaît? Du coup, le premier projet, c'est un projet qui s'appelle Blue Carbon Mangrove et qui est porté par un fonds d'investissement reconnu dans son secteur qui est Carbone Neutral Royalty Ltd. Et c'est donc un projet qui...
Ltd. Carbon is, this is on a pilot phase on 10,000 hectares of mangrove in the eastern coast for 30 years in the context of reforestation, carbon capture, and carbon trade. So this first pilot project will be implemented in Madagascar, and it has very interesting issues. The available 3,000 and 90,000 hectares of mangrove surface is available, and the current annual conservation of we have 40,000 hectares of mangrove conservation. greenhouse gas effect emission, autonomization of local communities, creation of long-term revenue, and equitable benefit sharing. So the community is the target to have a palliative bank, and 10,000 hectares will be put to the availability of private partners. So we'll have 10,000 hectares of mangrove. It's huge. So this company will bring their expertise to get the verified carbon standards certification, and 2 years later they can start selling carbon credits. So there will be direct jobs created and indirect ones, namely in the local communities. For the first project, 1,000 jobs will be created, 50% of which will be for women. So in terms of capacity building, there will be training provided to the community on sustainable management of forests and management of micro enterprise. It will generate consequent in foreign investment, because there will be funding, a $3 million of funding for 1,000 hectares. So for 10,000 hectares, we need $30 million. So these are
30 ans, parce que la durée du projet est...
The turnover is $1,120 million. The project is replicable all over Madagascar, mainly in the eastern coast of Madagascar and in the Indian Ocean. So there's an essential key that we need to mention here, because there's a very interesting benefit sharing plan here. So in 6 years, the project will earn 75% of the income, the revenue, and the 25% will be given to the local community. And then after being amortized, it will be 50-50. So in terms of impact on community, there will be a lot, because we will make professional the income generating activities of the local population, but also we have a equitable resource redistribution. So this is the first project. Let's move to the second one. Sorry, he's too fast. So this is still a decarbonization project. So carbon credit sequestration. So you need to know that there are many activities which allow carbon sequestration. We have a forest carbon, we have the blue carbon, and we also have agriculture, renewable energy, and so on. So this project, called the regenerative agricultural project, is aimed at having regenerative agricultural project, grouping landowner to increase in a more profitable way soil fertilizing in Madagascar on 8 years. And this is a project that can be deployed on many years, and to use regenerative agricultural techniques, and landowners will be shareholders of this regional corporation, depending on the carbon generated by their land. The carbon will be measured, and it will be counted in the voluntary carbon sequestration. So it is implemented in Madagascar and in Senegal as well. It address different issues like soil sterilization, low insertion of Madagascar in carbon credits, and the objective is to increase livelihood means, increase soil fertility on 40,000 hectares. And this is just one project among others that is deployed, protecting the biodiversity and in inverse um, uh, pro, sequestration 40,000 tons of carbon. In terms of activities, we need to set up a regional cooperative of regenerative agriculture, providing new value chain, sell carbon credits directly. This project aims at creating 4,000 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect ones. So it will promote innovative and modern agricultural techniques, and there will be support to land tenure securing. So in terms of investment, $70 million is the estimated amount for this project, and they want funding and low interest funding. And the company wants to settle Madagascar with a pilot project of 500 to 2,000 hectares before expanding to other territories. So the project was tested, and the feasibility studies in Madagascar are underway. It is replicable in Madagascar and in Africa and in the Indian Ocean region. Thank you. Oh.
Donc le prochain projet.
So the next project is aquaculture of a sea cucumber, so and mangrove protection. Sea cucumber is very demanded in the international market, and they are victim of illegal exploitation. So they will have aquaculture of sea cucumber and conserve a mangrove area where sea cucumber are living. This is one of the advantages, and it addresses different SDG goal, SDG. So 5,000 hectares of mangrove will be conserved or protected or conserved, and with these 5,000 hectares of mangrove protected, the project will sell carbon credits that are sequestrated in the market. So next slide, please. To do so, the project promoter estimates that they need $30 million to implement the project, for a turnover estimated at $175 million for the two components, the conservation and carbon credits sale from the mangrove and the selling of sea cucumber. So this will contribute to SDG 8 by protecting and conserving land and marine ecosystems. The project will contribute to achieving SDG 14 and 15, and this kind of project can be replicated in islands where there are mangroves, but especially in the western coast of Madagascar, which is very rich in this, have a rich ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem. Thank you. So this is a project Ala Hunku reforestation and mangrove plantation and reforestation. So this is a project Next, the first slide, please come back. Okay. So this is a project that will sell carbon credits on 6,900 hectares among the 15,000 hectares of the Mena Bay region. So this carbon credit, to conserve these 6,900 hectares, they will collaborate with the local population. How? By reducing interaction between human beings and these mangrove areas of 6,000 hectares of mangrove. So they will create income generating activities. It will create local jobs. So they will sell after that the 6,900 hectares of mangroves, the carbon captured in those 6,000 hectares through the RED Plus system. So just to precise, the project will be implemented in the southern part of Madagascar in the Mena Bay region. And it will need, the project will last 6 years, and the first year will be dedicated to the setting up of necessary documents. For example, the feasibility studies and RED Plus homologation certification. Next slide. So the project will need $5 million just to promote these income generating activities, and for the 6 coming years, and the carbon credit sale, the turnover, estimated turnover is $15 million on these 6,900 hectares of mangroves. Thank you.
Ok, on passe au projet.
Okay, so let's move to the next project. This is a project led by Mauritius. This is an innovative project in a way that this is not only focusing on management and mangrove reforestation, and of course the carbon credit resale, but this is a digital platform in all the management mangrove plantation process. So the objective of this project, the objectives are: first, plantation and management of a coastal area in the mangrove management, involve the local community in these activities, in these agribusiness, income generating agribusiness activities, by framing them, supervising them. And the interest of this project is the digitalization, like the setting up of a digital platform that will will help monitor the whole process up from the beginning up to the carbon credit sale. So grassroots community will provide the data for the monitoring of the management of this mangrove plantation, and the satellite data, drone image will feed as well this information. So involvement of the community is really important here, and from this digital platform, it would be easier for all stakeholders of the project to monitor and follow up the selling of carbon credits, all the financial sector section of the process as well. And in regard to the funding, anything that will be earned could be used in sustainable tourism, as mentioned earlier, to help the reduction of carbon for the management of sustainable tourism. Next slide, please. So, in terms of capacity building, apart from, in addition to the training of a community-based organization in the ecosystem management, there will be also a training on digital and digital technology training provided to the community. So this project need a funding of $1 million. 10% of the project of the funds have been acquired. Feasibility studies were done, and we just need to follow up in the implementation of the project. Here we talk about replicability of the project in the western region, but this is very easy to replicate and duplicate in the Indian Ocean for the monitoring and the management of all projects linked to carbon credit selling. Thank you.
Merci Liv. On va donc passer au premier.
Thank you, Rivu. Let's move to the last project of this decarbonization topic. So there is a long list of 30 projects. So this is a project from the Seychelles entitled Island Carbon Bank Marketplace Platform. So it will solve energy transition and fight against climate change in island under developing island country. So it will use promote use of technology and a scientific approach in decarbonization process. So it will use a digital platform for the selling of volunteer carbon. So it will focus on activities linked to this market only for Indian Ocean and becoming
La problématique, c'est que
unique, the only window where we can buy it. It will help the fight against climate change in island countries. A one-stop shop. This would be a one-stop shop. Sorry. So the non-diversification of expertise in the decarbonization sector. The objective is help island country to find a balance between conservation and development in terms of environmental and energy transition, to facilitate construction of innovative strategy in the fight against climate change by using all relevant data and using them to develop a strategy and provide the best quality of service, especially for developing countries, island countries. So we will have a one-stop shop of carbon credit sale, use of island ecosystem in terms of decarbonization. When you talk about SDG 17, which is promoting partnership to achieve objectives, it will mobilize different actors, students, scientific researchers, scientists, entrepreneurs from island community and international organizations. What is the business model of this company? Next slide, please. Because it is a bank, it is a marketplace of carbon sale for voluntary carbon. But there will be a committee which will work on the transactions, and they will develop the project on the first part of it and then support expertise in decarbonization. So apart from there will be competence transfer, innovative approach in the fight against climate change, and in terms of funding, the estimated cost is around $3 million, according to the installment. First year, $75,000 for the setting up, and then $2.5 million, which will be correspond to the purchase of credit to start the project and the initial purchase of carbon. This is a cross-cutting project because it involves all Indian Ocean sector. Thank you.
This is the end of the project presentations. As I told you, in terms of way forward, tomorrow we're going to have a deep dive on each one of these projects. These are going to be purely topic sessions. We're going to distribute the sessions. Each project is going to be scrutinized in a precise way. I think that you can share the timing for these presentations, so you just come for your interesting project. Tomorrow we continue. We'll start at 8 a.m. with 3 different rooms, and now we're going to have break first, and then we ask all our partners, especially those who are physically represented here, to explain about their commitment in the conference. And we're going to continue this kind of conference for 8 years. I invite you to have a break and then continue after.
On sort pas de la salle pour la petite pause, tout se.
So the break is here in the room.
Mesdames, Messieurs, je vais vous demander de reprendre place pour que la séance reprenne. Merci.
Let's get back to our seat and continue.
Comment?
Mesdames, Messieurs, s'il vous plaît.
Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to go back to your seat for us to continue the session.
Nous avons pris un peu.
We are a little bit delayed. I ask you to go back to your seat to continue the session on the last session of today. Thank you.
Prière de reprendre place, s'il vous plaît.
You are invited to go back to your seat, please.
Nous allons donc commencer la...
Okay, we're going to start the last session of today, which is a very important moment because our partners are going to intervene on the financial mechanism of the impact and project, which are funded by them, and we're going to have funding solutions in order to position some institutional actors on the project in this conference of the ADDOI. Some public sectors and United Nations systems as well as banks are going to intervene. We are going to give an overview of the program that they deploy and that they would like to present for the valorization of their project. To start this session, I'd like to invite Mr. Seine-Ranevson, who is the Secretary General at the Central Bank of Madagascar.
mes excuses.
I do apologize because there's a slight change because there's a demonstration of the digital platform before the different interventions of the financial partners in this conference. I'd like to present this digital platform quickly for this conference. We created this digital platform that you can have access to it via through the use of your laptops or smartphones. The goal is to directly create a consultation of what's happening, what's happening today, for instance, through this platform, and you can just navigate to have a look at the presentations which were done. The goal of this platform is beyond that. We have some people who are enrolled in this platform. The goal is to increase the number of subscribers, and the goal is to have an ecosystem of people who are project owners, and because all the projects which are presented today are in the platform. You can see them here. For instance, here is a presentation. The presentations that you saw are available in this platform, and beyond that you can also contact the project owner. For instance, if you search for a project, I can ask for an appointment here. And the idea is to create an ecosystem of project owners in the Indian Ocean areas to highlight the works which are done in this project, and also if you want, we also need to have a sharing of knowledge, still aiming for sustainable goals for the United Nations. You can just connect to the internet, and through your profile you can consult the project, you can consult the information which is related to this project, and then get in contact with this project. You can also fix an appointment with the participants which are participants in this platform. If you connect to this platform today, you will see that there are some functionalities this platform has evaluated because it evaluates in different areas. It's just a short presentation, and we invite you to have a look at the platform www.ddoi.com, and it can help you find today's program and consult the project and have a look at the sheets that were shared to you. You can download it and have it for your own information. The presentation of the platform is over, and I'm going to give the floor to the facilitator. Thank you. Have a great day. We are now going to continue the final session this evening. This is going to present some funding solutions for impact projects. To start, I'm going to invite for a second time Mr. Sultan Edison, who is the General Secretary of the Central Bank of Madagascar. Please join me, and he's going to present the monetary politics and bank conditions that allow to support the impact projects in Madagascar. Mr. Sultan Edison, I give you the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, hello. Often when we talk about central banks, they are firm in their measures and they don't communicate a lot. And when they communicate, we don't understand many things. but be sure that things have evaluated in Madagascar especially. And personally, as a regulator of a financial sector, we lead a communication which is very open and which is productive with financial sectors. Saying that in order to talk about the sector on sustainable development, when they suggest me to intervene in this conference, I was asking the question to myself, what can the central bank bring to the participants? Because when we talk about sustainable development, we talk about several aspects which are far from financial aspects sometimes, but which are new also. There are a lot of connections to different systems, and finally the central bank is concerned with everything that we share today. To start my intervention today, I would like to remind you that Madagascar is suffering from the climate risk. That's not an hypothesis, but this year we saw we experienced 5 cyclones, drought in touching the southern side of Madagascar. At the north we also have flooding. It's something that we can perceive and it's more visible in the different sectors. It's impacting the whole sectors in Madagascar, but on the other side, Madagascar, as we saw earlier, has a lot of potentialities and opportunities. We saw through all these presentations on energy, if we only look at the capacity in terms of hydroelectricity or the solar level, there is also a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities to develop sustainable funding. In all this, what can we expect from the central bank? What can we expect from the financial sector? Because we've talked about monetary policy. If we look at an isolated way on the climate change, we can say that it only concerns some sectors, which is the economic sector. But when we give more importance on climate disruption, it impacts on the living conditions and production, and it provokes inflation. That's where the central bank can intervene, because inflation can also lead the economical leaders to do depression on resources which are not sustainable. It means that we have a closed cycle that we need to break. It means there is an inflation, and it leads people to the fact of not respecting the environment, because they still burn forests and they do overfishing, etc. So this leads us to a reflection that somewhere we need to break this cycle, which doesn't allow us to master the climate risk. And then, when we also talk about climate disruption, the events which happened in Madagascar at the beginning of the year, provoked a lot of distractions, and the credit beneficiaries could not reimburse their debts anymore, and this creates a problem in terms of financial stability. Therefore, the central bank can act for us to reflect together upon a sustainable development. First of all, on the master of inflation, and on the financial stability, which is the second aspect. On the matter of inflation, we saw the monetary politics. Actually, all central banks have many tools to master inflation, but it happens that these tools cannot cap the crisis. So these are classical tools allowing the central bank to master the inflation, but cannot provide answers on the solutions which are vital for the sustainable development. Actually, we had a lot of movement. For instance, the NGFS movement recruiting many central banks and many supervisors who are reflecting upon how can we talk about the financial system. So this monetary system should be supported with a monetary policy. The central bank needs to have the capacity to measure the impact and adapt tools to provide necessary responses to this question on climate risk. That's an approach that we need to develop, and the central bank follows this movement very close. The governor of the central bank also participated in the meeting of the central bank discussing about this topic. That's the first aspect. The second aspect is in terms of financial stability. Everything that is related to monetary policy transmission depends on the financial aspect. If we want to develop the funding of the economy, a green economy, or we need to have a financial system which is resilient, stable, and able to provide the necessary needs. And the Central Bank of Madagascar made several efforts to improve, first of all, the conditions of these profession exercises, which are in conformity with the international standards. We need the basic laws. We have a new bank law, a new interest law, specific law on electronic money, and all of these are meant to help actors that accompany the development of the sector in a general way. But when we talk about financial stability, we also need to improve the supervision. When we talk about supervision, it covers some aspects, mainly the methodology, as well as all approaches to make sure that the sector and the public keeps the confidence for the financial sector. So regarding the question on the monetary policy and financial stability, I think that the central bank has an important role to play, but the central bank cannot act by its own. There needs to be a mixed policy which is involving all actors so that the whole activities can be mastered. Thank you.
Je vous remercie, monsieur. Mechanism program proposed by Iowa for impact and green projects.
Thank you, Sergio. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Last month, Sergio visited me in Mauritius to discuss how Iowa
pourrait être partenaire dans l'organisation de cet événement, mais c'était trop tard parce que pour cette procédure, il faut l'approbation des membres des États membres. Donc la prochaine fois, on espère être partenaire de l'événement de la DDOI. je vous demande pardon en avance pour mes langages, mais ce matin, on a parlé de l'AEORA, et un tout petit peu, mais c'est pour cela que j'ai été invitée à parler un peu plus de l'AEORA, donc sur les mécanismes de financement, mécanismes financiers. Prochaine slide. Donc, je vais être bref, je vais parler de l'IORA, comment on progresse dans le mécanisme financier. Prochaine. So, le nom c'est l'Indian Ocean Regional Marine Association. Donc, est originaire de Nelson Mandela quand il était en Inde, qui effectuait une visite là-bas, durant laquelle il disait que on devrait avoir un mécanisme de financement initié par le country. Le 7 mars 1997, à Maurice, l'association a été lancée officiellement et les chapitres de l'AEORA, nous croyons que nous sommes notre objectif, c'est le développement, la croissance, promouvoir la croissance économique et c'est non politisé. Par an, ce mois, le 24 novembre, il y aura une réunion, une assemblée générale donc de l'AEORA en Inde. Les officiers, les hauts cadres officiers vont se réunir et on va parler des problèmes qui sont en cours actuellement. Voilà donc les États membres de l'AEORA en Afrique du Sud, l'Australie, la France, la Réunion. Donc parce que la Réunion est là, donc France est aussi un État membre. Prochain slide.
Please. Okay, so we have.
Prochain slide. Donc, certains de nos partenaires,
Italie.
La Germanie, l'Italie, Japon. Donc, nous avons la Corée du Sud, Chine, Russie, Égypte. AEORA donc représente les 5 je pense qu'il y a un problème technique là.
Priority area, we have 6 priority.
Donc nous avons des 6 domaines prioritaires et
GRC et technologie, coopération technologique, économie bleue et les femmes. Alors, c'est pas seulement ce qu'on a, mais nous avons aussi un globe académique, un globe de business, comme on l'appelle Forum de l'océan Indien sur les affaires. Le sommet sera ce mois, le 21. Ce sera un événement, il y aura beaucoup d'événements, il y aura ce mois de novembre. Comme vous voyez, oui, cette année, ce sont les États membres que nous avons, parce que là, vous voyez, il y a des pays à haute revenu et à faible revenu. Les États membres ont décidé que nous avons besoin de travailler pour faire l'investigation. Alors, les ministres ont adopté Si on va passer au slide suivant. Alors, IORA, le fonds spécial de IORA a été établi en 2008 et cela fournit des soutiens financiers pour les États membres. Pour les études, j'ai vu beaucoup de projets ici aujourd'hui qui ont été proposés avec des études de faisabilité. IORA peut soutenir pour les études de faisabilité et pour les conférences. Comment pourrions-nous avoir des fonds sur les conférences comme les ateliers ou renforcement de capacité et les projets comme cela qui pourraient bénéficier de cela, les États membres pourraient avoir ce financement. Nous recevons directement des applications des organisations. Cela doit venir sur notre site web IORA et nos membres, nous avons des points focaux un peu partout. Si vous allez soumettre vos dossiers vers les points focaux et nous allons répondre les jours qui viennent. Il y a cette assistance de 90% de soutien, alors les mises en œuvre doivent être 90% pour les agences. Il se peut qu'on a 2 ou 3 agences qui ont seulement des soutiens de 30%. Nous pourrons avoir 90% de soutien seulement. C'est pratiquement c'est 80 $, mais c'est pas limité à cela. Par exemple, la semaine prochaine, Madagascar va héberger un événement sur le Fonds global. Ce sera une formation et un atelier sur la gestion durable du système de carbone bleu dans l'océan Indien. Ce sera à Tuléar. Je pense que c'est très loin d'Antananarivo. Alors, c'est 80% financé par le fonds de IORA et AFT soutient 80% de ce projet. Ce qui est très intéressant, c'est que en 2008, les États membres ont réalisé que ce n'est pas suffisant. Et le fonds soutient juste des petits séminaires ou ateliers ou conférences ou études de faisabilité. Et maintenant, sous le leadership de Bangladesh, cette année, on s'est dit que nous avons besoin de plus de cela parce que nous avons besoin des partenaires de mise en œuvre et des partenaires de dialogue avec les pays et organismes de 5 millions de $. Alors, ce sont...
Thank you, Rajib, for...
Merci beaucoup pour votre intervention, monsieur, et pour la présentation de l'IORA. Et on va continuer sur ce...
je vais inviter l'une des entités partenaires des Assises du développement durable de l'océan Indien, personne d'autre que Madame Natasha Van Rijden, qui va nous présenter les projets, les programmes de financement comme le Biofin, le Fonds vert climat et notamment les Blended Finances dans le cadre des financements.
As well. Project funding. So over to you. Good morning, everyone. I'm conscious that we are Friday. It has been a long day, and I am the one who will stop you from going back home. So I will try to make it short, as brief as possible. Maybe I'll move to English because there are many development funding words or English words, so I'm sorry if I switch into English. I'm not going to have. We are not going to businesses usual, institutions like mine, the private sector, you cannot continue with business as usual. All crisis and potential crisis in the horizon are interrelated: economic, political, environmental. We cannot afford to treat those problem sectoral way. So now we need to make a decision, important decision on the future of our planet and the next steps. And we see the importance of the alignment between public and private funding is and most importantly, we can reach or at least move forward in achieving SDGs in 8 years. Public funding will align public funding to support the implementation of public policy, which help advance SDG agenda. This is the reason why we have this discussion about instruments and tools for UNDP applies in building to move
Je rappelle, dans ce cadre, nous pensons et nous croyons que c'est financière qui nous impacte. Le monde, merci. Merci beaucoup. Ce n'est pas le Covid. Donc, ce que je disais, c'est que le monde a assez de ressources financières. C'est pas ça le problème.
Resources, how the money development is again in the heart of our mandate between governments, between businesses, between CSOs, and between internationals and between UN nations organizations. So this is a kind of mapping of all existing funding in a country, in the national, international, public, and private. The idea is this exercise has been implemented in 86 countries, and we want to have that here in Madagascar as well. But this practice helps decision making based on available funding, no matter what the source of the funding is. But we have recorded, mapped out 260 public policies to align with SDGs. So this is a tool that we support in different countries all over the world, and this is also a way which allow us to advance the blended funding, public-private, to improve, move forward with the agenda. The model will join as well the IMF, World Bank, United UN systems, and the government, which what this INFF allow us to do is to adopt a long-term approach, and I mentioned here the determined contribution that will be discussed during the coming days, and which are strategic plan and national visions which are worth funding from different sources. INFF, what INFF allows us to do is to identify funding resource to support this the implementation of NTC. So among the bold vision that we have, UNDP also have bold vision. We have on clean energy, renewable energy, uh, which will for 500 millions of people by 2030. This is quite ambitious vision, but this will be done through that UNDP interact with their partners to work on this renewable energy sector, and we have a lot of projects that goes on that way in the region. So in a global way, just I will give you some figures through vertical fund, the fund 28 countries for the installation or rehabilitation of 8,000 megawatt of renewable energy. So we work on that here in Madagascar and in the region as well. Another space where we have protection against risk. This is insurance. Given the recurring shocks, like the multiple effects of cyclones that we have here in Madagascar, investing in insurance can reduce the impact or the cost of recovery by 22%. It is measured and we have evidence. So risk finance facility. The risk finance facility will be piloted here in Madagascar, steered in Madagascar. There are insurance in that ecosystem, but it's clear that the question is how to invest before crisis is more and more important, knowing that we are expecting for the increase by 30% of the disaster, and that we need to invest in the preparation to limit the damage. So many financial mechanisms exist.
The Africa
so on. Here the Green Fund, Climate Green Fund in Madagascar managed to fund 71.5 million on the $10.8 billion here in Madagascar. So this is a multi-country project. 35% of this fund is allocated to Africa. We also have Biofin, which is a tool deployed here and in the overall region. Biofin is a world initiative for biodiversity funding. We are not going to repeat how important biodiversity in Madagascar is, but following the COP10 meeting of the COP10 on importance of biodiversity, which concluded that we need to know the funding needs and to have a methodology to be able to develop resource mobilization strategy. The global objective is managed by the UNDP with the support of European Commission and government, German government, Norway, Finland, United Kingdom, and 41 countries support this initiative for the preservation of biodiversity. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have used many tools and acronyms. The objective is just to share with you how important and how possible integrating those tools in our discussion is, and so that we can move to advance blended financing. But we want to mix and marry all possibilities and potentialities of public investment with all the potentiality of private funding. Together, we know what we are sure to know is that institution alone, these institutions cannot go far. But together, with all these tools, we can address a huge energy transition. We can address climate change stakes. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci, madame.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Natasha Van Breiten. We are conscious that climate change, fight against climate change, is a cause that we share all. So that's the blending financing, which engage institutions, the banks, private sectors in the deployment of projects and in funding impactful projects. Thank you for your intervention. Now we will follow up with another baby of the United Nations, which is the PFAN, that the coordinator in Madagascar in the Indian Ocean will present today. So I will invite Mrs. Daniela Rakutmamundi to come in front and to present this other funding solution for green project that will support energy transition and fight against climate change. Thank you. Thank you, Tutu. Good evening, everyone. I'll be short, brief. I'm Daniela Hakutma-Mundi, and I'm representing the Private Financing Advisory Network in the Indian Ocean. I'm based here in Madagascar, but my mandate is on Mauritius, Union of Comoros, Maldives, Seychelles, and Mayotte, and Réunion. So what is PFAN? PFAN. Today, PFAN is a network of 200 experts, finance experts in project funding for climate change. So Africa, as you can see here, have the more represented because there are 77 from representative from Africa. PFAN have been created in 2006 following Paris Convention, Paris Agreement. So this is a baby of the United Nations, hosted by UNIDO. The idea is to accompany project holder, private project holder, government or semi-private project holder in the financial closing of their project. So now we have investors in capital or financial institution or funding program having requirements like a bankable project, and on the other hand we have a project holder who are strong enough in the technical side of project implementation, but they don't have the same language as financial institutions. So PFAN is there to fill the gap between both. So this is a platform that group experts, as I said earlier, in project funding and like a pool of technicians as well. So PFAN in general is representing 3 different platforms. The first group of platform is financial institutions, funding program, impact investors, crowdfunding, all financial institutions who are interested in funding projects under climate change sector. So the project must have an impact on climate change. The second group of this platform are the coach, the advisors. They are, of course, these are for free. The project holder don't have to pay for their service because they are already paid through PFAN. The third platform are the project holders in each country, and in this sense, there's always a link between the three group of platforms, because in each PFAN country, the idea is to have in place local advisor to to manage regional coordination. And as I said earlier, there are people who said, "I have a project mining project. How can I submit my project?" So there's a minimum of requirements on eligibility criteria. I invite you to look. It's a long list, so I invite you to go to the PFAN website. But you need to have three things. First, impact on climate change. Second, consideration of gender, meaning youth, women, people with disabilities. We are fighting for those parameters, and we are launching um, a huge signal on women project holder. So we just want to have a set back the balance between gender. So the third very important point is criteria is impact on creation of jobs. So just sectors of activity. This is very wide, as I told earlier, but we need to have impact on climate change. There are different projects, like we are supporting projects on marine transport, um, air transport, agribusiness, just to have an idea. PFAN was part of the team, of the selection team, and the scoring and assessment for the projects of all these conference. So we found out that there's a huge potential of the projects. There are ambitious projects. There are projects who were not selected. It doesn't mean that PFAN won't support them, but during this conference we provided a highlight on the 31st projects. But after the conference, projects that have not been selected, or project that was not selected to be submitted under this conference, can be submitted under Climate Invest PFAN project. What are the technical criteria? We always say that projects beyond $1 million, but you can see in the website there are projects that are less than $1 million but have strong impact. In the Indian Ocean, we have many project holders, but when we group them in a basket, we have a bundle project. So they are interested, investors are interested, like crowdfunding, for example, but especially those impact investors. It's really important. I want to highlight these last investors, types of investors. These are the ones who don't really look at they're looking at impact indicators. They mainly look at impact indicators. In the drafting of their project, there are project holders who has not this ability to underline and highlight the figures showing impacts of their project. But it's really unfortunate, because there are projects that can be piloted very easily. Just a track record. This year we were able to mobilize a $3 million of funding, project funding, which represents 228 projects. You can see on 1,200 projects that was submitted on the pipeline. There are under only 228 projects reached financial closure, because there's a lot of problem on bankability and of those projects. We have found out many project holders here in Madagascar who don't manage to find funders, donors, or investors, and that's the role of the coach. The coach is not going to draft the business plan, but they are there to orient and to guide them until the business plan, until the pitching of the project is implemented. Because in front of a panel of investors, there are project holders who are not feeling at ease. So up to the financial closure and until the signature of the contract with the investment fund, or the coach will be there. Thank you for your kind attention. But the question is, who is providing the funds? On the partners panel, you can see there our partners. For example, we have a SENREF. SENREF is a PFAN partner, SDG through UNIDO. This is a financial line as well that could be available for project holders of PFAN. United Nations, Region Atnanana, Madagascar develop a lot of projects, and through a partnership between Région Normandie in France, all these projects are eligible in the PFAN platform, because PFAN as a United Nations platform, it will develop more possibility of access to funding. So that's all. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Daniela, for this very enriching intervention. And it demonstrates the richness of solutions of funding for impact projects in the Indian Ocean in general, and the necessity to be accompanied in the drafting and development of the projects, because some realizations are done related to that. And let's take advantage of the solution for funding, because it's necessary to develop the projects. We're going to end this toolbox soon, which is for impact project. There are two interventions that remain. I invite Salim Mohammed, who is the Deputy Director of the Promotion of Investment in the Comoros Union, to talk about this promotion of investment and the financial funding mechanisms that allow us to cap investments for projects which are in the Comoros and in the Indian Ocean. We give you the floor. Thank you very much. Good evening. It's not easy to be the last, especially at this time. I don't know what time is it, but it's okay. I'm gonna try to be very brief. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for being here for the organizers. It's important for us to participate in this conference, because now the island states in the Indian Oceans, it's the high time for us to act, because if we don't act for the SDGs, it means that we're not aware of what's coming. So regarding the toolbox within the National Agency for the Promotion of Investment, we implemented a mechanism to accompany investors, especially in the blue and green economy. These become the main sectors and the high priorities of countries in the Comoros. And it means that the project owners who come to our one-stop shop, most of the times, if we see that this project intervenes in the green economy and blue economy as well, it has more priority and to be accompanied compared to other projects. Our promotion, like the other projects, it doesn't mean that the other projects should not invest in the Comoros. We need them, but these are projects that bring impact on our emergency plan. It has directly been materialized after drafting the new code of investment. We adapted to the emergency plan and to economy, which is one of the major bases for this development plan for the country, which means today uh, the benefits and support for all projects having social and environmental impacts have more advantages compared to others in terms of tax exoneration or custom exoneration compared to other projects. Now we work on it with synergy because for instance, today there is what we call testing PNDC, which is a program that assists on competitivity and value field. In this competitiveness, when we look at the project, it's the agribusiness, tourism, and innovation. We see that now we would like to orient everything because we have the problem of food security in the Comoros, and the economy should be based on that. But we also want to have a blue tourism respecting the environment and green tourism as well. So now when you come to the Comoros to invest, we have dedicated some specific zones for project owners who are working on the economy, on the blue economy. For instance, there are national parks, and 2 months ago, the President of the Republic specified some zones which are allocated for the national parks of the country. I'm just going to take the example of Moeli Park, which is a protected area, and now it has a project. Feel free to come to us if you have a project related to it, because there's a potential to invest on agribusiness in this Maoli National Park. In this, there are other zones as well in the Comoros where the Republic President and the government would like, with the United Nations system, they specify that these are specific zones. And you will see soon that the Comorian team delegation that come here can prove that the Union of Comoros holds on the sustainability of the economy, because when the invitation was received, His Excellency the Minister, he also mobilized the private sectors. Mrs. City is here, there is a president with us. There are actors who said that we are island states. The experts said that in 50 years we're going to disappear. We don't hope for it, but if we don't act, it's gonna be real. We need to be very patient. We need to be very careful. So the toolbox that we present, we have our website, which is www.investcomoros.net. I think that you can see that on the tools which are suggested, but I would like to invite all of us, all my colleagues and friends in the Indian Ocean, because we only have one planet, and we will not have any more coming planets. It's time to act, and let's invest in everything that is real and sustainable, because it's for us as well as for the future of our children. Therefore, the lady who comes with us can confirm it, but we have the toolbox, but we don't have funding. So I'm going to sit near you because it's very important, because the project owners are here, and they go beyond the figures that you want. We're going to partner because we need that, and we will make sure that these are green projects and eco-friendly. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for this intervention. And once again, we're going to close this toolbox on the last intervention, which is about another type of investment. which is the investment on the methods and techniques. We're going to talk about an organization which is a partner of the conference, the Project Management Institute, and the Africa director is present among us.
To explain the intervention of PMI in Africa. It's up to you.
That was a long walk. Friday night, the last one. The last guy, I thought he was the last one, not the last one. Excuse me for speaking English.
Je vois qu'on a gardé le meilleur pour la fin et je vois que ce qui sont restés ici sont les plus pertinents. Merci à tous d'avoir alloué ce temps. Je suis Georges Germany, je suis le directeur qui gère PMI au niveau de l'Afrique subsaharienne. J'aimerais comprendre l'audience dans la finance. Est-ce que vous pouvez lever vos mains? Financement, finance, est-ce que vous êtes lié aux dons et qui sont les gestionnaires de projets et qui sont les parties du gouvernement? Alors, il y a 65% de porteurs de projets et 10 et 15% pour les autres. Merci. Juste pour savoir à qui je m'adresse. En tant que directeur de PMI Afrique, PMI, c'est l'Institut de gestion de projet. Nous sommes une organisation au-delà de la profession de gestion. Nous voulons faire des choses, des bonnes choses en appliquant des recherches et des principes dans nos travaux. Nous sommes une organisation au niveau mondial. Nous sommes 15 ans et nous avons été initiés aux États-Unis. Nous sommes présents dans plus de 200 pays dans le monde entier. Nous avons 310 chapitres dans l'Afrique. Nous avons des chapitres dans 20 pays. Notre but, c'est... Nous avons trois buts à focaliser. C'est la certification et la formation. C'est le fait de fournir des expertises techniques. Et le deuxième point, c'est la croissance au niveau communautaire. Ensemble, en tant que communauté, nous pouvons avoir d'impact sur les domaines que nous voulons. La communauté, c'est là où nous avons des porteurs de changement. Et le troisième point, c'est l'impact social. En tant qu'organisation, nous aidons les gens pour bien faire les choses. Nous travaillons à travers tous les secteurs, gouvernement, société, par exemple avec le gouvernement. Nous travaillons avec le gouvernement pour aider à mettre en œuvre les centres d'excellence pour améliorer ces centres d'excellence pour qu'il y ait une meilleure exécution de projets au niveau du pays. Nous voulons aussi mettre en force les lois au niveau pays. Nous travaillons avec les gestionnaires de projets dans des domaines spécifiques ou bien avec le gouvernement pour avoir des certifications et qualifications et pour augmenter les standards minimums des gestionnaires au niveau pays. Le gouvernement, les sociétés ont des stratégies sur les exécutions, sinon c'est juste des papiers. Et c'est là où nous intervenons. Nous travaillons avec les compagnies pour qu'ils puissent avoir les bonnes équipes et les méthodologies pour exécuter ces stratégies. En termes d'impact social, en termes d'éducation, et organisation des jeunes, c'est là où nous travaillons en termes d'impact social. Spécialement en Afrique, il y a plus d'1 milliard de populations qui sont sous 30 ans, dessous de 30 ans dans l'Afrique subsaharienne. Les jeunes qui sont moins de 30 ans sont jeunes. Et en Afrique, les jeunes ont beaucoup d'avantages pour des raisons différentes. Ce n'est pas seulement des avantages, mais cela pourrait être aussi des risques potentiels avec le temps. Si les gens n'ont pas de travail, n'ont pas de compétences, c'est un problématique. Il y a beaucoup d'impact social au niveau des jeunes. Les jeunes qui sont éduqués, comment pourrions-nous s'assurer qu'ils ont les compétences et comment pourrions-nous leur aider à avoir le travail qu'ils ont besoin. Et c'est vrai que pas tout le monde pourrait avoir accès à l'éducation. Comment pourrions-nous appuyer l'éducation pour que nous puissions développer des partenariats en travaillant avec les études et avec les études gérées par les jeunes. Il y a beaucoup d'entreprises gérées par les jeunes en Afrique pour faire cela. Ce sont les domaines que nous avons couverts. Je suis ici avec Nelson Corison et Pedou qui sont derrière. Ils m'ont rejoint pour l'impact aux jeunes et Shrub Prevalence, il est venu avec nous. La raison pour laquelle il est ici, c'est que nous avons un chapitre à l'île Maurice. Il y a un gestionnaire au niveau de la communauté qui travaille pour améliorer le niveau gestionnaire là-bas et pour appuyer pour la mise en œuvre de ces projets. Juste quelques mots. Après notre arrivée à Madagascar hier, nous avons rencontré quelques membres de PMI qui ont été certifiés à Madagascar et qui ont déjà commencé à essayer à avoir des impacts. Parce qu'avec la communauté, c'est si important d'avoir ces membres qui sont certifiés. Nous voulons voir comment pourrions-nous accroître la capacité des communautés ici et comment pourrions-nous accroître l'impact. Une de mes priorités, c'est le renforcement de capacité, surtout pour la gestion des projets, parce que nous avons des projets à travers le continent, nous pouvons avoir des économies et des revenus meilleurs à travers cela. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle nous sommes là. Les significations, les changements qui sont importants ne pourront pas se passer s'il n'y a pas d'appui comme les projets, comme ce qui se passe aujourd'hui. Et les changements importants aussi se passent au niveau de la gestion. J'ai rencontré Romy au Bruxelles et nous avons commencé à voir comment pourrions-nous avoir un partenariat pour avoir plus d'impact à travers l'océan Indien, spécifiquement pour les projets qui seront sélectionnés pendant les années à venir, parce qu'il y a notre thème d'économie bleue, réchauffement climatique et carbone. Il y a ce niveau de gestion de projet qui est assez critique pour leur succès. Alors, nous sommes ici pour appuyer sur ces domaines parce que le temps passe et c'est important pour nous d'agir rapidement et ensemble. Nous allons changer cette ambition vers des actions. Nous avons besoin des politiques de financement, évidemment, mais tout se passe au niveau de la gestion des projets. Ainsi, en termes de gestion de projet et outils ou bien méthodes de travail, nous avons dit que les gestionnaires de projet sont importants pour apporter des changements et nous avons besoin des outils qui sont appropriés et méthodes de travail qui sont appropriées. Nous pouvons lier les projets aux grands objectifs. Quels sont les buts au niveau national, quels sont les buts au niveau régional et mondial? Parce que les gestionnaires de projets qui travaillent d'une façon isolée ne pourraient pas optimiser leur impact. Et un des éléments qui est dans le cadre d'apprentissage, c'est l'argument de business. Il y a ce qu'on appelle triangle du talent. C'est-à-dire, on a besoin de comprendre le contexte là où on travaille. Le projet sera on aura du succès pour le projet avec cela et des leçons seront apprises si ce n'est pas le cas. C'est la raison pour laquelle nous avons des partenariats avec les gens et les organisations pour fournir les bases pour les compétences avancées et pour former les communautés pour avoir de l'impact social, pour pouvoir couvrir le spectre de compétences qu'on a besoin pour avoir plus d'impact. La nature de l'initiative qu'on est en train de parler ici, c'est que même le projet est délivré d'une façon durable. C'est pas seulement que les résultats sont des solutions durables, mais le projet en entier doit être durable. On pourrait avoir cela à travers une bonne gestion de projet avec des efforts, c'est-à-dire les pratiques en termes de durabilité sont mises en œuvre dans la façon de travailler. Par exemple, nous croyons que les bons gestionnaires de projets devraient être capables d'inclure les ODD, les 6 ODD dans leur façon de travailler. C'est pas séparé du résultat qui est attendu. Ça fait partie aussi des contextes. En tant que PMI, je pense que nous sommes une organisation unique au niveau mondial. Quand on parle de cette position unique pour avoir ces rôles en tant que leader, en d'autres mots, nous pouvons servir en tant que catalyseur pour les projets de succès et pour les porteurs de projets qui sont ici pour soutenir les porteurs de changement. J'aimerais terminer en disant merci. Nous sommes ici en tant que partenaires. C'est un domaine qui est critique, qui est pas seulement à Madagascar, mais à travers toute l'Afrique. En tant que représentant de l'Afrique, j'adore vraiment le fait d'appuyer tout le monde dans la région. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, George.
Merci beaucoup, Georges.
J'ai donc le plaisir de clore la première séance des Assises du développement durable de l'océan Indien, qui n'est pas encore terminée parce que demain nous avons un programme aussi chargé
Very full agenda. Tomorrow we will have work on project closing. We'll work on it by topics. So this is an opportunity for financial institution, potential investors, for donors to meet and discuss about the projects in a more detailed way and to show interest in the project that was pitched today. We really hope to see the interest of many of you, but I want to precise that the conference will be implemented on a long term from after tomorrow. So it will create a dynamic linking project owners, finances, institution, public and stakeholder and relevant stakeholder in the development of structuring, transformative, profitable and sustainable for the Indian Ocean. Goodbye and have a nice evening all.